Imagine discovering that you have been hypnotizing yourself your entire life. Every time you whispered, "I'm not enough," your subconscious believed you. Every time you repeated, "Nothing ever works for me," your mind accepted it as truth. And every time you expected disappointment, reality quietly organized itself around that expectation. But here's the extraordinary truth. The same subconscious that learned limitation can also learn abundance. The same mind that accepted fear can accept confidence. And the same inner voice that has held you back can become the very force that sets you free. Everything changes the moment you begin speaking to yourself with intention. Before you can change your relationships, your finances, your health, or your circumstances, you must first change the voice that speaks inside your own mind. Most people believe their greatest conversations happen with family, friends, or colleagues, yet the most influential conversation is the one no one else ever hears. Every thought you repeat becomes an instruction to your subconscious, and your subconscious quietly builds your reality around those instructions. It shapes the way you perceive opportunities, respond to challenges, and define what you believe is possible. I learned this lesson during a season when I constantly told myself that life was difficult and success belonged to other people. Without realizing it, I was reinforcing the very reality I wanted to escape. Then, I made a simple decision. Whenever I caught myself saying, "I can't," I replaced it with, "Everything is aligning for my highest good." Instead of thinking, "I'm unlucky," I reminded myself, "I am worthy of abundance." Rather than believing the universe was working against me, I began affirming, "The universe is working with me." At first, nothing around me seemed different, but gradually, my emotions became calmer, my confidence grew stronger, and I started noticing opportunities that had always been there. The universe responds not only to your desires, but to the vibration behind your inner dialogue. Every loving thought strengthens your connection with the creative intelligence that flows through all things. Every fearful thought weakens that connection. So, choose your words carefully, because your subconscious is always listening, and reality is always responding. Challenge your inner voice, and your outer world will begin to echo its truth. As you begin transforming the way you speak to yourself, you will quickly discover that your greatest challenge is not changing your words, but confronting your fears. Fear has a quiet voice. It rarely shouts. Instead, it whispers endless questions. What if I fail? What if nothing changes? What if I am not enough? Every time you entertain those thoughts, you unknowingly enter a conversation with limitation. Worry is not preparation. It is imagination moving in the wrong direction. Your subconscious does not recognize the difference between a real danger and one you repeatedly create in your mind. It simply follows the direction of your dominant inner dialogue. I remember standing before an important opportunity, convinced that I was unprepared. My mind rehearsed every possible mistake before I had even begun. Then I paused and asked myself a simple question. What would my highest self say right now? The answer was immediate. It would not speak with fear. It would say, "Trust yourself. You have been prepared by every experience you have lived. Take the next step." That single conversation changed my energy completely. Instead of shrinking, I moved forward with confidence, and the opportunity became one of the greatest turning points in my life. This is how consciousness expands. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. And where your energy flows, your reality begins to grow. Each time fear appears, replace it with possibility. Replace doubt with faith. Replace hesitation with trust. Speak as the version of yourself who already knows that the universe is guiding every step. Every empowering conversation redirects your energy toward the future your soul has been waiting to create. As you begin choosing possibility over fear, you start to realize something even more profound. You are never truly silent. Even when your lips are still, your consciousness is speaking. Every repeated thought, every emotional pattern, every expectation you carry is continuously being transmitted into the invisible field that connects all life. Most people believe prayer only happens when they fold their hands or close their eyes. But the truth is that your dominant internal conversation is your most constant prayer. If your mind repeatedly says, "Nothing ever works for me," your subconscious accepts it, and your energy begins searching for evidence to confirm that belief. I discovered this during a period when I felt as though every door was closing. Although I spoke positive words to others, my private conversations were filled with frustration and doubt. Deep inside, I kept repeating that life was unfair. Then I realized I had been praying through fear far more often than I had been praying through faith. From that day forward, I changed one simple sentence. Whenever uncertainty appeared, I quietly reminded myself, everything is unfolding perfectly, even when I cannot yet see it. At first, those words felt unfamiliar, but with repetition they became natural. My mind became calmer, my decisions became wiser, and opportunities I had overlooked suddenly became visible. Nothing changed overnight, yet everything began changing from within. The universe does not simply respond to occasional wishes, it responds to energetic consistency. Speak internally, as though life is already supporting you, even before the evidence appears. Trust that every thought rooted in faith strengthens your connection with infinite intelligence, because the conversation you repeat most often becomes the reality the universe faithfully reflects. As you begin speaking to yourself as though life is already supporting you, gratitude becomes the natural language of your consciousness. It is impossible to maintain a conversation of abundance while constantly focusing on what is missing. The subconscious amplifies whatever you repeatedly appreciate or criticize. If every morning begins with thoughts of lack, your mind spends the day searching for more evidence of limitation. But when you begin with gratitude, your inner voice immediately changes direction. Instead of saying, "I have nothing," you quietly affirm, "I already have reasons to be grateful." Those simple words carry extraordinary power because they teach the subconscious that life is already supporting you. I remember a season when very little seemed to be working according to my plans. Yet every morning, I forced myself to write down 3 things I genuinely appreciated: my health, the people who believed in me, and another opportunity to grow. At first, it felt insignificant, but within weeks, my outlook transformed. I became calmer, more optimistic, and unexpectedly new opportunities began appearing. Nothing outside had changed first, my perception had. Gratitude dissolves resistance because it removes the feeling that something essential is missing. It aligns your heart, mind, and spirit with the frequency of abundance. So before you speak to anyone else each morning, speak this truth to yourself: I already have reasons to be grateful. Your subconscious expands whatever it consistently appreciates, and the universe responds by revealing even greater reasons to celebrate each new day ahead. As gratitude becomes a daily habit, another truth begins to reveal itself. Transformation is never the result of a single inspiring thought. One positive affirmation may lift your spirit for a moment, but lasting change is created through repetition. Your subconscious mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant once may never take root, But whatever you plant consistently, with emotion and conviction, eventually becomes part of who you are. Identity is not formed overnight. It is shaped by thousands of repeated thoughts, spoken words, and emotional experiences. I discovered this when I stopped searching for new affirmations every week and committed to just one. Every morning and every evening, I quietly repeated, "I trust the intelligence of life." At first, those words felt unfamiliar, almost as if I were speaking to someone else. But I continued anyway. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Gradually, I noticed something remarkable. I stopped reacting with panic whenever life became uncertain. My decisions became calmer. My confidence became steadier. I realized that I was no longer forcing myself to believe those words. They had become my natural way of thinking. That is the hidden power of repetition. The subconscious accepts consistency as truth, and what it accepts as truth eventually becomes identity. Choose one sentence that reflects the person you are becoming. Perhaps it is, "I am aligned with infinite abundance," or "I am becoming everything I was created to be." Repeat it every day with genuine feeling until it no longer sounds like an affirmation, but like a simple fact about who you are, because consistency does not merely change your thoughts. It transforms the person who is thinking them. As your new identity begins taking root through consistent repetition, you may feel tempted to keep speaking, keep asking, and keep searching for more answers. But there comes a moment when the greatest transformation no longer comes from what you say. It comes from what you are willing to hear. Powerful self-talk is not endless conversation. It is a sacred balance between expressing your intentions and creating enough silence for deeper wisdom to emerge. The subconscious absorbs your affirmations, but it is in stillness that they begin to settle into the deepest layers of your being. I learned this lesson after spending months repeating affirmations without ever slowing down to listen. Every meditation became another opportunity to speak, to ask, to visualize. Yet one morning, after quietly repeating my intention, I simply remained still. There were no expectations, no effort, no words. In that silence, an unexpected feeling of peace replaced my need for certainty. A simple idea appeared in my mind, one I had never considered before. That single intuitive insight eventually led me toward an opportunity I had been searching for all along. Since then, I have understood that the universe often whispers rather than shouts. Its guidance arrives through intuition, gentle inspiration, unexpected clarity, and the quiet confidence that cannot be explained logically. This is why, after repeating your affirmations, spend a few moments doing absolutely nothing. Breathe deeply. Listen without forcing answers. Notice the calm, the subtle thoughts, and the quiet knowing that begins to surface. Because sometimes the greatest guidance from the universe arrives in the silence between the words you choose to speak. As your journey through these moments of silence, you begin to realize that every conversation you have with yourself is far more than private thinking. It is a declaration to reality. Every sentence you repeat becomes a direction your subconscious quietly follows, and the universe faithfully mirrors the state you consistently embody. When your inner dialogue speaks from fear, you strengthen the patterns of survival. When it speaks from faith, you invite new possibilities into your experience. I remember ending many days replaying mistakes, criticizing myself, and wondering why progress felt so slow. Without realizing it, I was carrying yesterday's doubts into tomorrow's opportunities. Everything began changing when I adopted one simple evening practice. Before going to sleep, I would ask myself, did my inner voice strengthen my dreams today, Or did it strengthen my doubts? If I discovered a limiting belief, I refused to end the day with it. Instead, I consciously replaced it with a higher truth. I am guided, I am enough, and life is unfolding for my highest good. Night after night, those conscious conversations reshaped my identity until optimism became natural instead of forced. Remember, your inner dialogue is always creating. Speak from wholeness rather than lack. Speak from abundance rather than survival. Speak with the certainty of someone who already trusts life's wisdom. Let every thought become an invitation for your highest future, because the words you repeat today become the reality you experience tomorrow with unwavering faith and joyful expectation always, starting now. As you become more aware of the conversations shaping your reality, you will notice one question that quietly drains your energy more than almost any other. Why is this happening to me? It sounds innocent, but hidden within it is the language of powerlessness. The moment you ask that question, your mind begins searching for reasons to confirm that life is unfair, that you are unlucky, or that you are somehow separate from the flow of abundance. This is how victim consciousness keeps repeating the same experiences. I remember a period when every setback felt personal. Whenever something failed, I immediately asked why life seemed to be working against me. Those questions never brought peace. They only deepened frustration and confusion. Then one day, I changed the question instead of the circumstance. Rather than asking, "Why is this happening to me?" I asked, "What is this experience teaching me?" Suddenly, every challenge looked different. Instead of seeing rejection, I saw redirection. Instead of seeing delay, I saw preparation. Instead of seeing failure, I saw wisdom being quietly developed through experience. The universe is always expanding your consciousness, but it cannot reveal deeper understanding if you insist on interpreting every difficulty as punishment. Every challenge carries a lesson for those willing to listen with an open heart. So whenever life feels uncertain, ask yourself, how is life preparing me for something greater? That single question shifts your attention from suffering to growth, from resistance to trust, and from fear to possibility. Because the quality of your questions determines the quality of your consciousness, and your consciousness ultimately determines the reality you experience. As you become more intentional about the conversations that shape your reality, begin paying special attention to the very first words you speak to yourself each morning. Before the world asks anything of you, your subconscious is already listening. In those quiet moments between waking and activity, your mind is remarkably receptive. Whatever you repeatedly introduce into your consciousness during this sacred window becomes the emotional direction for the entire day. I learned this after noticing that I often began each morning remembering unfinished problems instead of unlimited possibilities. Before my feet touched the floor, I had already convinced myself that life would be difficult. Nothing outside had happened yet, but my inner conversation had already shaped my expectations. Everything changed when I created a new morning ritual. Before checking my phone or thinking about responsibilities, I closed my eyes and quietly said, "Today, I choose peace. Today, I walk with abundance. Today, I allow miracles to find me." At first, these words simply felt comforting. Soon, they became familiar, and eventually they became believable. My days unfolded with greater calm, clearer decisions, and unexpected opportunities because my subconscious had already accepted a new direction. Start each sunrise by introducing yourself to your future instead of remembering your past. Let your first conversation become an invitation to the highest version of yourself, that already exists within. Because the way you greet the morning determines how the universe greets you throughout the day. With limitless possibility and unwavering grace always together, many people believe their greatest obstacles exist outside themselves, yet they quietly carry yesterday's guilt, regret, and self-judgment into every new opportunity. Unforgiveness keeps the subconscious attached to old emotional energy, making it difficult to create a different future. I remember replaying past mistakes again and again, convincing myself that I should have known better. Those silent accusations drained my confidence more than any external challenge. Everything shifted when I replaced condemnation with compassion. Whenever guilt appeared, I gently whispered, "I release what no longer serves me. I honor the lessons and choose freedom." At first, those words felt uncomfortable, but over time, they softened my heart and quieted my mind. Love is the natural frequency of consciousness, and forgiveness restores coherence between your heart and mind. When you forgive yourself, you are not excusing the past. You are freeing your creative energy from endlessly reliving it. Every lesson becomes wisdom instead of weight. Every mistake becomes preparation instead of identity. So whenever regret returns, answer it with kindness instead of criticism. Speak to yourself as you would someone you deeply love. Healing begins with the words you are willing to speak to yourself, and every forgiving thought opens space for new possibilities rooted in peace, purpose, abundance, and lasting inner freedom. Trust that the universe never wastes an honest lesson. Every forgiven memory becomes fertile ground ahead, always gently. As you learn to forgive yourself, you begin creating space for something extraordinary. The ability to see possibilities where you once saw limitations. This is where your inner dialogue becomes one of the greatest forces shaping your destiny. Every sentence you repeat is like standing before a doorway. Some words quietly close that door before you ever have the courage to walk through it. Others open pathways you never imagined existed. When you tell yourself, "I'm not ready, this will never work," or "people like me don't succeed," you are not simply expressing an opinion. You are instructing your subconscious to stop searching for opportunities. Consciousness always expands toward whatever receives your belief. If you believe in limitation, your awareness contracts. If you believe in possibility, your awareness expands, allowing you to perceive opportunities that were invisible before. I experienced this before making one of the most important decisions of my life. My first thoughts were filled with hesitation and doubt. Then I paused and asked myself, are my thoughts opening doors or closing them? That simple question changed everything. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, I began asking what could go wonderfully right if I trusted myself. My energy shifted immediately. I became more confident, more creative, and more willing to take inspired action. Looking back, I realized the opportunity had always been there. What changed was my willingness to see it. Before every important decision, ask yourself whether your inner dialogue is creating expansion or contraction. Choose words that strengthen your faith instead of your fear, because every empowering thought opens another universal door waiting for your courage to walk through it with complete trust. As you begin opening new doors through empowering thoughts, remember that repeating affirmations is never about convincing the universe with empty words. It is about transforming your own energy until your subconscious accepts a new truth. Many people recite positive statements for a few minutes, then spend the rest of the day thinking, speaking, and feeling exactly as they did before. In that case, nothing truly changes because the vibration beneath the words remains the same. I learned this lesson when I would repeat affirmations every morning while secretly carrying anxiety throughout the day. My words sounded hopeful, but my emotions were filled with doubt. Then I realized that I should not stop speaking until I actually felt different inside. So I slowed down, breathed deeply, and repeated each affirmation with complete attention. I trust life. I am guided. I am worthy of abundance. I continued until my breathing softened, my shoulders relaxed, and a genuine feeling of peace replaced my fear. That was the moment everything shifted. Manifestation does not begin when you finish speaking. It begins when your vibration changes. The subconscious responds to emotionally charged repetition because emotion gives life to every thought you plant within it. Continue speaking empowering truths until you feel lighter, calmer, stronger, and completely certain that what you are declaring is becoming part of your identity. When your energy changes, your perception naturally changes as well. You begin noticing opportunities instead of obstacles, solutions instead of problems, and possibilities instead of limitations. Because the reality you experience tomorrow begins changing the moment your inner energy changes today. As you continue transforming your inner dialogue, remember that one voice will influence your destiny more than any teacher, friend, or mentor ever could. It is the voice you hear every single day, your own. Your subconscious listens to that voice with unwavering trust. It does not question whether your words are true. It simply accepts what you repeatedly tell it and quietly begins building your reality around those beliefs. If that voice constantly criticizes, doubts, or condemns you, your subconscious assumes that limitation is your natural identity. But if your inner voice becomes an expression of compassion, confidence, and love, your entire life begins to reflect that transformation. I discovered this during a season when I realized I had become my own harshest critic. Even after achieving small victories, I immediately focused on what I had done wrong. Then I asked myself a life-changing question. If the universe spoke to me with unconditional love, would it sound like the voice inside my head? The answer was no. From that night forward, I created a simple ritual before sleep. I would close my eyes, breathe deeply, and gently tell myself, I am guided, I am worthy, I am protected. Everything I seek is already seeking me. Those words slowly replaced years of inherited fear with quiet confidence. Night after night, my subconscious absorbed a new truth until self-belief became stronger than self-doubt. Speak to yourself with the same kindness, patience, and unconditional love that infinite intelligence would offer you. Make your inner voice a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. Because the most powerful conversation you will ever have is the one that quietly shapes your soul when no one else is listening.